On today's Locked On Bucks, we recap a tough, frustrating fourth quarter for the Bucks as their 4-game win streak comes to an end in Houston. What went wrong, and can the fourth quarter offense be fixed? Camille and I look into that after this on Locked On Bucks.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Bucks. I'm Justin Garcia, joined as always by Camille Davis. We thank you for making this your first listen of the day and for checking out the Locked On Bucks newsletter. If you have not done so yet, you can sign up for free at lockedondaily.com and get your day started with the all-new free Locked On Bucks newsletter. The 4-game win streak is no more, Camille, as it comes to an end in a rock fight in Houston against the Rockets. This was almost an identical game, at least in terms of the last couple of minutes, to what we saw the first time, and by the score too, that these two teams played in Milwaukee. The Bucks won that game 101-100, and the Rockets win this one tonight 100-97. I think it was a 7-0 run to close the game for the Bucks in that win, and that was basically what the Rockets did to the Bucks in last night's game. Is this game was a 1-point game, or it was tied on those Giannis free throws at 95. But you had that stretch at around the 3-minute mark where Jalen Green hits a 3 to extend the Rockets' lead to 4. Dame follows it up with a 3 of his own. And after that, the only field goal that was scored by these two teams was that Giannis dunk with 9 seconds left. So in the final 9 points, 7 came at the free throw line.
Yeah, it was tough for the Bucks to generate offense down the stretch in this game. The refs called it pretty even. I thought they let both teams play. It was a very physical game defensively, and you saw the players kind of just respond to that and understand, like, this is how the game is going. This is how we're going to be playing this game. So seeing the physicality get upped the way that it did, and then in the fourth quarter, as you mentioned, just the problems the Bucks had scoring. And I think to start the quarter, the lineup that they threw out there, the no Dame, no Giannis lineup, with Kevin Porter Jr. being like the point guard of those units. I mentioned it on yesterday's show of, like, it seems like Doc is trying to see if there is something to these Kevin Porter Jr. minutes with Dame and Giannis both resting, and what can the Bucks get out of that. I think long-term, thinking playoffs, it won't be smart to have either of those guys off the court. Need to stagger those minutes. But for the regular season, just trying to figure out how guys can operate, what you can get away with, what works, what doesn't work. And the offense for that unit to start the quarter just did not work. They got stops. They were able to get stops, just weren't able to score the ball. And then on top of that, an area that you highlighted in the preview show yesterday was a sore thumb for the Bucks, and that was the Rockets' ability to crash the boards offensively, and the second chances they were able to get and generate throughout the game. Overall, when you lose a game by 3 points, you're looking at the margins of, like, where could we have been better at? Offensive rebounding, keeping them off the glass is 1 point of it for them. And a game when you thought maybe the Bucks would have a 3-point shooting edge against a team that's not necessarily known for being a top 3-point shooting team, they weren't able to get that in this game either.
Yeah, the Doc mentioned that after the game too, that he felt they'd have a big advantage in 3-point shooting, and it was even in makes, and even attempts were essentially even there. The thing you raise about Giannis and Dame and not staggering those minutes, I've seen a lot of that, and I guess I would just say too, and I don't think this is your point that you're making, but I mean, Doc's hands were also kind of tied. That I saw a lot of complaints of, how do you start the fourth quarter with neither of the guys on the floor? I know Damian Lillard's minutes were not restricted as much as Giannis's. The Bucks and Doc have said he's on a minutes restriction. He still played 37 minutes. So there's that. But Giannis definitely is, and played 31. Doc said before the game, the number's at least up to the 30s now, but we're still watching it. So there's really no way to stagger that without, getting down the stretch and not having one of those guys on the floor. And that's ultimately what they wanted. So it was, all right, we're going to bring Giannis in at the midpoint, and we're not going to play Dame the entire fourth quarter as we're still watching his minutes. If this was a playoff game and once Giannis gets through that progression, that number's certainly going to be different, and that scenario is going to be different where you're not, maybe you open the quarter, but you're certainly not playing as many minutes to start the fourth quarter with both Giannis and Damian Lillard off the floor. So I've seen a lot of that for these past few games. And again, we got to wait for Giannis to get more clearance and get through this, whatever that minute total is. I would assume it's around 32. Doc said eventually we can see it. It's getting close to the mid 30s, but it's not there yet. And I think that's the big reason why you had those lineups without one of those guys on the floor. Both
Yeah, those stretches, it makes sense. When you're trying to deal with your star player having a minutes restriction, those minutes got to go somewhere else. So just trying to buy time. And like I meant, I don't think it's necessarily a problem right now because this is a team that just got an influx of guys on the team. You got Kevin Porter Jr., you got Kyle Kuzma, you have Jericho Sims. And with the Bobby Portis suspension, it does open the door to allow you just to give these guys a little bit more run than you might have done before. You pair the Bobby Portis suspension with the minutes restriction that Giannis has been on and the one that quote unquote Dame has been on as well along the way. And there's minutes to eat up. And I don't fault Doc for just seeing if they can get away with non-Giannis and Dame minutes together. Like I said, in the playoffs, I doubt you see that. I'm pretty sure you'll see them staggered in a way where at least one of the two are always on the court. But right now during the regular season, when, as we know, it's not like the Bucks have a lot of practice time to be able to go and try different things out. I heard Doc Rivers talking about his second unit and saying that in practice, the last one that they had, he was encouraging them like, hey, second unit, you can go out here and win. Try to win this. Like, don't respect these guys because you don't go out there looking for autographs. Like, go out here and try to win it. He really wants to see what this unit can do, what they can produce, and how they can respond. So I don't fault him for in this game just saying like, hey, how long can we get away with? How many minutes can we buy with these guys on the bench running with this unit? And again, the defense was really pretty solid for that group. It's just that they weren't able to score. Like Gary Trent Jr. was getting to some of those mid-range shots that he likes to take. A couple of them got blocked. Some of them didn't go in. You saw some careless just turnovers of guys thinking someone's going to be somewhere and the ball's just flying out of bounds somewhere. You saw guys missing open looks. And even when Dame and Giannis do check back in that fourth quarter, you see like there were still open looks from guys that just weren't falling for him. So this is one of those games where at the end of it, you wish the result was different and the Bucks came out with a victory. But like the process wasn't terrible outside of the offensive rebounds that they continue to allow and maybe clean up on those turnovers there.
Yeah, we knew it would be in all likelihood an issue on the offensive glass because of how good the Houston Rockets are. And Doc himself said, overall, I got to rewatch the tape, but overall, I thought we did an okay job in terms of finding our man and boxing out. But it's that youthful athleticism of the Rockets that they still were able to get the balls that were bouncing it on the ground and getting those offensive reloads. And that just created a ton of issues for the Bucks. There's some other numbers to dig into in the fourth quarter that stand out. I want to get your reaction to Bucks fourth quarter offense and some of the trends that we have seen so far this season and some of the key plays from down the stretch in the fourth quarter. One shot in particular has seemed to catch and draw the ire of a lot of Bucks fans, and even Doc Rivers spoke a little bit about this shot. So we'll get into that coming up after this on Locked On Bucks. This next segment of Locked On Bucks is sponsored by Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on retirement contributions. The privileges of the very privileged are no longer exclusive. With Robinhood Gold, your annual IRA contributions are boosted by 3%. Plus, you also get 4% APY on your cash in non-retirement accounts. It's over 8 times the national savings average. The perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive your 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk, rate subject to change. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold at $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost over 8 times the national average savings account interest rate. Claim is based on data from the FDIC as of November 18th, 2024. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. Okay, so a couple of shots to get to that certainly stood out in this game. There are some interesting numbers as we talked about this Bucks fourth quarter offense as well, but let's start with these shots. The Brook Lopez three-pointer that had a lot of Bucks fans upset. And Doc Rivers said after the game too, I don't remember his exact wording, but yeah, maybe we should have taken something else there. What did you think about that shot?
I thought it was deep. Now we've seen Brook Lopez hit some of those deeper threes, and you're just kind of like, okay, like heat check. I feel you, Brook. But in that situation, as soon as he let that go, I was just like, that feels like if he makes that shot, it's one of those shots where you're just like, wow, like that was a big time shot. But I don't think it's necessarily a great shot for Brook Lopez. I know he can hit it, so I won't say it's a bad shot. But I don't think it was ideal at that particular time in the game. Luckily for them, after that shot was missed, Sengun had the turnover where he tried to put a little too much on it, throws out of bounds. The Bucks get another chance at it, but not ideal, I would say, for Brook Lopez in that situation to try to take that particular shot. I know after the game, Brook himself said, like, hey, it felt good. Like, I know I was a little far away, but the shot felt good to me in the moment. I wasn't too much worried about it. Like, I thought it was a good look at that time. I know others disagree, but again, not the ideal shot. Could make it, so not bad, but not ideal.
I know others disagree, and now, unfortunately, that Chris Middleton is gone. Brook Lopez is the new full-on whipping boy for a lot of Bucks fans. I suppose, on an island here, I didn't really mind the shot for the reasons that Brooks said in that quote that you just read, what you mentioned earlier. I mean, it was deep, but it was a good look. I mean, and Doc said after the game too, we drew it up that way, that we knew we're either going to get an open look or we're going to have Giannis rolling to the rim. And when Brook came out to set the screen, he was probably 2 steps too deep. And that's what led to, I think it was like a 33-foot shot. Brook's 3 of 16 this season on shots from that range, but it was still a very open look. And I've seen a lot of people say, well, Giannis was right there under the rim. Just throw the ball to him. Yet Alperen Şengün kind of closing out there in between Brook and Giannis. And I don't think that pass was as easy as everybody assumes it was. And if you turn the ball over there, it's even worse. So I didn't have a problem with the shot. And I especially like that it came so early on the clock too. You didn't have time to play defense with, I think there was 26 seconds, but it gave you more time to extend the game. If you miss the shot and play the foul game, as you mentioned, it worked out to the Bucks' favor with that Alperen Şengün turnover. And I think the Rockets were also kind of caught off guard of, wait a minute, why aren't they fouling us? Okay, let's go attack. And you get another opportunity. And that leads us to the other play in the fourth quarter, or another of the other 2 plays in the fourth quarter, with Damian Lillard talking after the game. Tony Brothers was the official in the pool report and said the contact occurred before Dame went up for his shot. I see you already disagree. It's another area where I guess I'm on an island. I do think he's right. We listened to Dame, or we didn't listen to, we saw Damian Lillard explain the shot to Eric Name, where he said, I could see the Rockets. I could hear them saying foul. I knew that's what they were going to do. I got everything I wanted, and I knew they're going to foul me. So it was definitely taking a risk, but I feel like I timed it perfectly. And in real time, when you watched it, I felt the same way of, man, that's a 3-shot foul. I forget what hand it was, because we could only see the one hand of Tari Eason, right? That was defending him and that fouled him. We could only see the one hand in real time. When they showed the alternate angle in the replay, you could see that there was, as soon as Dame catches it, Tari Eason gets his hand on him and is starting to foul him. But still, it was a great job by Damian Lillard to go up and pretty ballsy too, as he said, to not get that call a little bit deflating. But man, for the Bucks to get another opportunity like they did, not just with the look that Dame got after that, the fact that they benefited from that dual lane violation after Dame misses his first free throw, you couldn't have scripted a better opportunity for the Bucks to come away tying that game. And even when Dame, even with that first one, had he made it, and I know on the broadcast they're saying, well, I guess now you got to entertain missing the second one. Even if he made that first free throw, I think he had to miss the second one because there was 3 seconds left and
no timeout.
There's going to be no time. Yeah.
So he had to do what he had to do. In real time, when he got that shot up that I thought was 3 free throws, it felt like the contact and the shot motion started at the exact same time. And I was just like, how is that not 3 free throws? Yeah. The reviews afterwards where you see it and if you slow it down, like, yeah, I can see the argument.
It's as close as you can get.
Yeah, it is. And it's like in that situation, like I would love to see Dame get some of those superstar calls a little bit, like give him the benefit of the doubt in that situation. It looked like he was getting the shot off. I agree with Dame and his logic behind it. It was a risk, but I do think he timed it as well as you possibly could in that particular situation. I was surprised that it wasn't 3 free throws there, but the Bucks were still in this game, despite talking about how they needed to be better on offensive glass, despite talking about them going through the cold spells of not being able to score to open the fourth quarter. The Bucks defense, as we've talked about throughout this season, was impressive throughout this game. We know the Rockets aren't like a great half-court team. They're not a team that, they get all their buckets in that way. They tend to score a lot on their second chance opportunities and using their defense to fuel their offense, causing turnovers, getting out on the break, running, scoring. So for the Bucks to do as well as they did defensively, I think that's something that you can hang your hat on. Again, there are things to clean up. I saw one comment come through as we did doing this live on YouTube about grab the rebound with both hands. Like there was a lot of that. And when the Bucks did go small in the lineups where it was Kuz and Sims pretty much as your bigs out there, I was thinking like, hey, we know Jericho Sims, he has a reputation of being a really good rebounder. These lineups should work. But with them being small around the two of them and just the way that the Rockets kept crashing the glass, it was some struggles. Just tapping the ball is not going to work. Just trying to find the ball and not locating the man behind you, that's not going to work. Like there are some things fundamentally going forward the Bucks are going to have to dial in on. Like you have to put a body on somebody when you're trying to secure the rebound. Try to find a body, box out, try to create that space for your team to be able to grab that board. So they have, like, again, things to clean up, but I was encouraged with the defense from this group going forward. It's just that the offense has been a problem for this group throughout the season where the defense has been ahead of the offense. And we're getting to a point in the season now where it's only 25 games left, 26 games, somewhere in that range. And you want to see the offense start ticking. Now, again, they're dealing with like Giannis on minutes restrictions. They've been dealing with a few different things here along the way, but got to see some answers here with that Bucks offense going forward.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple other things I think that have suddenly crept up in these last couple of games with the offense, but both of these teams had a basically 75 offensive rating in the half court. And I mean, the Rockets did win on the offensive glass, but it wasn't really by the margin you would have anticipated just in watching the game. I think they had a 31% offensive rebounding rate, which is still pretty good, but it's not like it was an excellent offensive rebounding performance for the Rockets. And both defenses forced a decent amount of turnovers. The Bucks forced more. It was just the start to that fourth quarter where it took minutes for the Bucks to score. And again, both these teams combined to score 27 points in the quarter. So it wasn't just the Bucks offense falling off. As you mentioned, it was their defense clamping down on the Houston Rockets as well. But there are some trends that we've seen from this fourth quarter offense I do want to get into on our next segment. There's one last moment from this game to touch on that I'm curious your thoughts, because somebody brought this up to me last night. The flagrant 2 on Amin Thompson against Giannis was obviously a clear flagrant 2. And I think when you saw Amin Thompson see the replay and his reaction too, he was like, oh man, I didn't realize I used that much force on him. So I don't think there was any intent there. But what was brought up to me was, are you surprised nobody got in Amin Thompson's face after that, the way that Giannis was yanked down and the contact to the neck. And the name Bobby Portis came up in this conversation too. Man, if Bobby was on the floor, maybe it escalates, but he's definitely at least getting chest to chest with Thompson.
Yeah, that's a great point. I did notice that too. As soon as Giannis went down, my first thought was like, please get up, be all right. Seeing that he got all right or got up, it was just kind of like there was no other Bucks players in the vicinity saying anything about it, which was a little weird. But I think with the physicality in this game, like the way that guys were battling throughout it, it felt like a healthy level of respect between the two teams. And even after the game, Giannis was like, I know he didn't go up there with any ill intent. Like, he's playing hard. I play hard. Sometimes that happens along the way. I do think the refs got the call right. Flagrant 2, get him out of there just because it was around the neck and head area for Giannis. But a little surprised no one stepped up, and I didn't see any like retaliation fouls, so to speak, down the stretch. Like, that's one thing with this Bucks team that I do take a look at, and it's just, how do you respond when things aren't going your way? How do you respond when you're not getting the calls? We've seen at times earlier in the season where guys are just complaining to the ref and the play's going back the other way, and they're still down there, hands up, talking to the ref like, where's the foul? And now they have their teammates in a bad situation where they're playing 4-on-5 because they're complaining. And one thing I'll give the Bucks in this particular game is that despite not getting as many calls as they thought they should have been getting throughout the way, they just kept hooping and they kept saying like, this is how it's going to be called. Okay, this is how we're going to play. And that was one of the little things of like a silver lining of like, if you guys can keep that mentality going forward, that should bode well for you come playoff time.
Some of the trends for the fourth quarters, though, that is not just this game, all season long. It's what has stood out about this Bucks team. So I do want to take a look at those numbers and to get into that conversation coming up after this on Locked On Bucks. Well, time to talk to you now about our friends over at DoorDash, and especially you NBA fans. Time to get ready for the swoosh. You hear it, it means you save. Thanks to Dash Pass, every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. It's simple. When any player scores 50 or more in a game during the 24-25 NBA regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order, up to $10 savings the next day from noon to midnight. Whether you're planning an epic game day feast after that 50-point performance, you can celebrate by ordering wings, pizza, or burgers from your favorite spot delivered directly to your door. Or if you need lunch on the go for the next day, you need a quick, easy lunch for your afternoon. With Dash Pass, you get your favorite meals with $0 delivery fees and reduced service fees. Plus, now you save even more with that NBA exclusive offer. Sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. Must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. Okay, so some of these offensive trends. The Bucks are still the second worst offense in the clutch. They're one of 3 teams that have a sub 100 offensive rating in clutch situations. The other 2, it's not a neighborhood you want to be in, right? With the Wizards have the worst. I think the Miami Heat are third worst, and then you have the Bucks. Their defense has been great. I think it's second best defense in the league, but there's got to be a healthier balance than second worst offense, second best defense in those moments. And, you know, we look at half court offense too, because that's so important in the playoffs. I mean, it's not like, hey, this is time for worry, but against the best defenses in the league, the Bucks have gone from 5th to 11th in half court offense. To be expected that you see a bit of a drop off, but you know, you look at teams that have not experienced that drop off. The Boston Celtics, the Indiana Pacers, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Those are the top 3 offenses in the half court against top 10 defenses in the league. The Knicks are number 7. So these are groups, in theory, you're going to play in the playoffs. And especially to achieve your goal, you're going to have to beat these teams. They haven't run into those issues. And a handful of those teams have a top 10 defense. And those are the ones that have given the Bucks some fits in the half court. So that, you know, I think we talked about it on yesterday's show. that is going to be the biggest thing to monitor is the Bucks' fourth quarter efficiency and their clutch offense down the stretch. Because last I checked, after this game, I think the Bucks are up to 10th by themselves in defensive efficiency, but offense is, starting to
15,
creep.
16.
Yeah, back towards the middle of the pack. I mean, it is what it is, right? I unless the Bucks just go on this stretch of holy cow, they scored 140 points in 10 consecutive games, you're probably now finishing higher than 12th offensively this season, which I just keep coming back to. If you told any of us before the season started or even early in the season, they are going to consistently have one of the 10 best, and they could probably get up to 7th in defense with how closely teams are packed in there. They're consistently going to be a top 10 defense, but offense, they're going to struggle to crack the top half of the league. None of us would have seen that.
Not at all. Not at all. I'm not sure if you still have the clutch numbers up or handy. Do you know how many clutch games or situations the Bucks have been in? Because I know
26, I think.
It's like the last 4 games, I believe it was.
Up, yeah.
Were clutch, and before that, they just hadn't been in too many clutch situations. So I was wondering if that might.
So they're in the middle. Yeah, they're in the middle of the pack. They play 26. That is 12th. The Houston Rockets, by the way, have played the most, along with the Minnesota Timberwolves, and they have the most wins. They have the best record in clutch games at 21-16.
Okay, that's useful information to know as well, and that's a question for this team going forward around the offense, because prior to the trade deadline, the saving grace, quote unquote, of a Chris Middleton was saying, hey, I trust him to score. I trust him to create his own shot. I trust him to be able to do something with the ball if it's needed. If everything slows down, I trust the ball in Chris Middleton's hand to be able to, if not get a bucket, make the right play. And with this team as it's currently constructed now, we know that Dame and Giannis are going to be the focal points. That's where the majority of your offense is going to come from. If you need someone to go and get a bucket, you're going to lean on one of the two of them before anybody else to try to accomplish that. And the question now becomes, when things continue to slow down here, can anyone else step up in those moments? And when you look at who was closing the games out, I believe AJ Green was in to close this game over Taurean Prince, and the rest of the starting lineup was the same there. But it's like, who are you going to for the buckets? Like, Kuz had a wide open look from 3 that was created, I believe, by Dame driving and kicking to him in the corner. Just missed the shot. We had Kuz had a fast break opportunity where I think Giannis got the steal. He goes down, gets a shot block. And it's like, we got to try to capitalize in those moments, but also who else is going to be able to step up? Like, we've seen Gary Trent Jr. hit some big shots, but he wasn't in that closing lineup here against the Rockets. AJ Green is somebody who you respect the 3 ball. And he does do some things every so often where it's like there's the movement of like, here's the closeout, make a quick move, try to counter that and see if I can get a look out of that. But with the offense kind of struggling, the question just continues to be, if it's not Giannis or Dame, can anyone else step up to do it?
Yeah, I mean, so far the answer to that question has been no. Who would you guess has scored the most points in clutch situations for the Bucks this season?
It's like my instinct, seeing how Dame puts the shots up, but then I feel like the obvious answer is one of Dame or Giannis, but I feel like it's not one of those two for some reason. But I'm going to say Giannis.
It is Giannis.
Okay.
62 points. Dame is second at 53. We have a guess on who's third? As we just said, who's going to be that third
Brook
guy?
Lopez?
It is Brook Lopez, the third most points in clutch for this team. And we obviously need a larger sample size with this new group, but that is one of the other things is, like, we can't do this thing where we say Chris Middleton's trash and then you make the trade and the Bucks win and we love Kyle Kuzma, we love the athleticism that he brings. And then something like last night happens and it's Kyle Kuzma sucks offensively and Chris Middleton would have really shined in those moments. I mean, look, you have to find a happy balance here. And that's the one thing I am very curious to see how it unfolds is Kyle Kuzma, what stood out in those first couple of games that he was with the Bucks, there was no Giannis. And he was the one that was, I don't want to say playing the Giannis role, but he was playing in transition. He was attacking the rim and getting those unorthodox shots. You can't have both he and Giannis doing that consistently. That Giannis needs that runway. So in the games where Giannis has returned, we've seen more kind of catch and shoot style play. Not that he's not doing it overall, not that he's not taking any of those shots he was before, but we've seen a lot more of Kyle Kuzma in the corner as a three-point shooter, and that frankly has not been his strength by the numbers. There was a big moment in last night's game where you mentioned Damian Lillard set him up with that open look. I think it would have tied or given the Bucks the lead, and he missed the three. So that's one of the things to keep an eye on is, he helps your rebounding. He helps your defense. He was very good defensively once again last night. But that's the one thing you're still searching for is who is that third guy? We've seen flashes of it being Kuzma. We've seen flashes of it being our guy, Gary Trent Jr., flashes of it being Brook Lopez too, but they have not consistently found who that's going to be. And that's, the last thing too, is you lose by 3. Your defense was very good. Your offense was not good enough. And your bench was not very good. I mean, AJ Green had an okay game. Gary Trent Jr. did not. So that was one of the other takeaways from this.
It truly was. It truly was. And for Kuz, I do wonder if part of it is just as they're getting used to him being on the squad. And again, you mentioned his first few games came without Giannis, so he had the ball a lot more often, is finding the areas on the floor where Kuz feels comfortable operating, because it seems as if the catch and shoot, he's going to have those opportunities, and it's going to be important for him to knock those down when he gets the chance to. But at the same time, it's like, what else can we do with Kuz to get him in a rhythm offensively? Because I thought he started the game off well from the field. He got off, I think, like a quick 9 points or something like that in this game. And he finished with 12, 13 points down the stretch here. So it's like, as the game continued on, he just wasn't really able to get quality looks. I mentioned he had the shot that got blocked at the end there, stepped up in the bounds, had the open look from 3. They just didn't fall for him. But are there ways to have him involved with the ball in his hand where when we do get to the clutch time situations, he's going to feel comfortable about making the move and making the right play that fits into what he likes to do? Because ahead of the trade for Kuz, I just kept saying he's shooting 28% from 3 this year. He's a career 33% three-point shooter. The best we've ever seen him shoot from 3 in the season was 36%. So him coming to Milwaukee, I didn't expect him to jump to a 40% three-point shooter just because he has quote-unquote better looks now playing with Giannis and Dame. It's just we haven't seen him do it. So what ways can we get him comfortable so that when he comes down to the clutch, he's warmed up, he feels good, and he can make the right decision?
He's 8 of 23 on catch and shoot threes since joining the Bucks. So 35%. You'll live with it. It's not ideal, but okay, it's better than the numbers that you referenced before. And the hope is going to be cleaner looks. You're going to be more open looks when you're on the floor with Giannis and Dame. And hopefully that 35 number can grow up to 38. That's one you'll certainly live with. One last question for you as we start to wrap here. Speaking of catch and shoot, you know who leads the Bucks in both attempts and makes on catch and shoot threes this season?
I would assume it's Taurean Prince.
Do you have a second guess?
Oh, no, not Taurean Prince. Is it Brook?
It is Brook Lopez in both categories. Taurean Prince is second in catch and shoot makes. Gary Trent Jr. is second in attempts. Taurean Prince is 5th in catch and shoot attempts. So it just speaks to the efficiency on those shots for him. And by the way, the league leader in both catch and shoot makes and attempts is our guy Malik Beasley, who is once again setting team records for three-pointers at a new team that he goes to. But a tough one for the Bucks to see that win streak come to an end. It does not get any easier tomorrow night with Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets coming to town. And, we talked about the schedule that leads into that 5-game West Coast road trip. I said the importance of getting up to that point, 11 games, go 7-4 in those games. And now it just means you got to go 7-3 in these next 10. And it puts a lot more importance on games like you have against the Hawks and teams that are below 500, because there's very, very few of them coming up on the schedule for the Bucks. Tomorrow night, though, they look to get back in the win column as they play host to Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets. And of course, we'll have the recap coming up after that game. For Camille, I'm Justin. We will talk with you guys once again tomorrow on Locked On Bucks.